First contact. The void between stars held its breath. Admiral Zexor's crystalline fingers danced across holographic displays aboard the Dominant Will, flagship of the 87th Frontier Fleet. 23 Zarkan dreadnoughts hung in perfect formation, their iridescent hulls reflecting the distant glow of Andromeda's spiral arms. For 300 cycles, the Empire had ruled these reaches with mathematical precision. Sector scan complete. Admiral, reported Subcommander Kelith, her translator implant rendering her clicking speech into standard Imperial. No anomalies. The indigenous species maintains its primitive orbital stations. No threat assessment required. Zexor's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Another routine patrol. Another confirmation of Zarkan's superiority. His species had perfected warfare through algorithms and predictive modeling. Victory was simply mathematics applied with sufficient force. Then reality tore open. The dimensional rift appeared without warning, a wound in space-time that screamed across every sensor array simultaneously. Emergency klaxons shrieked through the fleet. Officers scrambled to their stations as the tier expanded, bleeding colors that had no names in any language. Energy readings are impossible, Keyleth stammered, her usual composure shattered. The scale. Admiral, nothing organic could survive passage through that phenomenon. Something emerged. The Odysseus came through the rift like a mountain pushing through silk. 5 kilometers of impossible architecture, its hull a patchwork of contradictions that made Zarkan tactical computers crash, trying to categorize it. Sections gleamed with mirror-bright alloys. Others appeared corroded, ancient, held together by visible rivets and welds. Antenna arrays sprouted at random angles. Gun batteries of wildly different designs clustered across its surface like barnacles on a whale. It was ugly. Asymmetrical. Wrong. It was terrifying. Size comparison, Zexor demanded, his voice steady despite the ice forming in his circulatory system. The hologram rendered the truth. The Odysseus dwarfed the Dominant Will by a factor of 6. It made their largest dreadnoughts look like escort fighters, and the energy signature radiating from its core registered at levels the Empire reserved for stellar manipulation. Hail them, Zexor ordered. Standard Imperial greeting. Assert our territorial claim. The communications officer worked her console. Seconds stretched into minutes. No response, Admiral. They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies, but nothing matches Imperial protocols. Wait. Isolating one channel. It's primitive electromagnetic radiation, audio only. A voice crackled through the bridge speakers, rendered through translation matrices that struggled with its cadence. This is Commander Ara Jong of the United Earthship Odysseus. We are quite lost, actually. Our navigation systems are recalibrating after dimensional transit. We mean no harm, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. Please respond on any open channel. The words were polite, almost apologetic. But Zexor had ruled this sector through understanding one fundamental truth. Weakness invited exploitation. This Earth vessel's captain admitted disorientation, vulnerability. The Empire's databases held no record of humanity, which meant they were either insignificant or previously conquered. Either way, they would learn their place. Power weapons, Zexor commanded. Target their power core. Disable them, then board. We'll acquire this technology for the Empire. 23 dreadnoughts adjusted their formations with practiced efficiency. Plasma lances charged. Particle beams hummed to life. Kinetic accelerators loaded projectiles that could crack moons. The Odysseus simply hung there, lights blinking across its mismatched hull. Fire. The assault was textbook perfect. Coordinated volleys designed to overwhelm shields and shatter armor. Enough destructive force to vaporize a small asteroid field. The Odysseus absorbed it all. Plasma dissipated against sections of hull that suddenly mirrored their exact frequency. Particle beams bent around the ship as localized gravity wells appeared and disappeared. Kinetic rounds struck and stopped, suspended in glowing fields before being gently deflected away. What in the architect's name? Keyleth whispered. The Odysseus responded, not with overwhelming firepower, not with the devastating display the Zarkans expected from a vessel of such size. Instead, 3 small projectiles launched from asymmetrical tubes along its port side. They moved slowly by military standards, almost leisurely crossing the distance to the nearest dreadnought. Point defense. Eliminate those projectiles, Zexor snapped. Automated laser arrays reduced 2 of the projectiles to vapor. The third reached the dreadnought unyielding theorem and struck its shield generators with a wet slap. Then it began to spread. Captain Vexen reports, "Admiral, his shields are being consumed. The projectile is some form of programmable matter. It's eating through their defensive systems and reproducing itself." On the holographic display, silver liquid spread across the unyielding theorem's hull like a virus. Where it touched crystalline armor, the armor softened, restructured, began broadcasting human encryption codes. "Advise Captain Vexen to initiate self-destruct protocol," Zexor said quietly. "We cannot allow that technology to spread to other vessels." But it was already too late. The liquid metal had infiltrated the dreadnought's computer core. Instead of exploding, the unyielding theorem slowly turned its weapons toward its sister ships. Multiple impacts reported across the fleet, Kelith reported, her voice hollow. 7 ships compromised. "Admiral, they're not destroying us. They're converting us." Zexor watched his perfect formation dissolve into chaos. Dreadnoughts fired on each other. Ships attempted retreat only to find their navigation systems locked. And through it all, the Odysseus simply drifted forward, patient as entropy. The communication channel crackled to life again. "We warned you." Commander Zhang's voice carried no anger, only resignation. "Arya, can you restore their communications without the shooty bits?" A different voice responded, feminine and tinged with artificial harmonics. "Already done, Commander. Though I should note that shooty bits is not proper military terminology. It is now. Attention, Zarkan fleet, stand down. We will return your ships after removing any weapons targeting systems. We really truly did not come here to fight, but apparently that's what happens when you shoot first and ask questions never." Zexor stared at the tactical display. In less than 3 minutes, an unknown species had neutralized the 87th Frontier Fleet without destroying a single vessel. Had turned the Empire's own technology against them using methods that defied every known principle of warfare. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Zexor felt something the Zarkan Empire had spent centuries purging from its culture. Fear. The spies who came in from the void. The dominant will's war room had become a tomb of silence. Admiral Zexor stood before the holographic display, watching 7 of his dreadnoughts orbit the Odysseus like captured moons. The human ship had released its grip on them after 3 hours, but not before stripping every offensive weapons system down to the molecular level. The vessels had been returned hollow, functional, but neutered. "Intelligence report," Zexor demanded, breaking the oppressive quiet. Commander Kelith stepped forward. Her usually precise movements jerky with suppressed agitation. The humans call their shipborne AI Arya. She apologized repeatedly during the disarmament process. "Actual apologies, Admiral, as if the systematic deconstruction of Imperial military hardware was simply unfortunate, but necessary." "Psychological warfare," Zexor muttered, but even as he said it, he doubted. The Empire waged psychological warfare through intimidation and displays of inevitable victory. This felt like genuine regret. It made the humans more terrifying. "Analysis of their technology?" he pressed. Kelith's mandibles clicked in confusion. "Contradictory. Their hull sections range from materials we banned as obsolete millennia ago to crystallized exotic matter we haven't even theorized. They use mechanical relays alongside quantum processors. Admiral, they have a section sealed with physical bolts made of refined iron." "Primitive camouflage?" "No." Kelith pulled up detailed scans. "The primitive components are fully integrated. The ship's liquid metal, they call it adaptive nanomaterial, can interface with literally any technology. Ancient or modern, digital or analog, biological or synthetic. It doesn't care. It simply adapts." Zexor studied the scans, his tactical mind racing. The Empire's strength came from standardization, perfection through uniformity. Every Zarkan vessel used identical systems, allowing for flawless coordination. But uniformity meant predictability, and predictability meant vulnerability. These humans had built a ship that couldn't be predicted because it refused to follow any pattern. "I need information," Zexor said slowly. "Real information. Deploy the Shadowcast." The 3 Zarkan infiltrators materialized aboard the Odysseus without incident. Their stealth technology was the Empire's finest. Personal cloaking fields that bent light and dampened thermal signatures. Biological scrubbers that eliminated trace pheromones. Neural dampeners that made them invisible to even psychic species. Agent Threx led the team through the Odysseus's corridors with perfect silence. The mission was simple: penetrate their computer core, extract technical specifications, sabotage their adaptive systems if possible. The corridors themselves were disorienting. One section resembled a museum, with exposed pipes and riveted metal walls that belonged in a historical archive. The next featured walls of seamless smart matter that rippled like liquid when Threx's shoulder accidentally brushed them. Movement ahead. Agent Corva sub-vocalized through their neural link. Two humans. They pressed against the wall as two figures rounded the corner. One was a woman in her 30s with dark hair pulled into a practical bun, wearing a uniform that mixed military precision with casual comfort. The other, is that a maintenance drone? Threx thought. Negative, Corva responded. Bipedal robot. Humanoid design. Primitive actuators but sophisticated processor signature. The woman, Commander Zhang, according to their briefing, was speaking to the robot as they walked. And I'm telling you, Arya, just because you can calculate every possible social interaction doesn't mean you should. Let people surprise you sometimes. The robot's voice emanated from a speaker grill that barely moved. Commander, I am constitutionally incapable of being surprised. I merely simulate the experience for interpersonal cohesion. Yeah, sure. That's why you laughed at Chen's joke yesterday. That was a polite acoustic acknowledgement, not genuine humor. You snorted. A processing glitch. You snorted twice. They passed within centimeters of Threx's position. Yang paused, tilted her head slightly, then continued walking. The robot, Arya, Threx realized with shock, their entire AI in a mobile platform followed. That was close, Corva transmitted. Proceed to objective. They moved deeper into the ship. The computer core should be centrally located, heavily guarded. But as they descended 3 levels, they encountered no security, no automated defenses. Now the corridor opened into a vast chamber. Threx stopped so abruptly that Corva nearly collided with him. The room was impossible. Its walls curved in non-Euclidean angles that made his visual cortex ache. Holographic displays floated in organized chaos, showing star charts, engineering schematics, what appeared to be recipe collections, and streaming entertainment feeds simultaneously. At the chamber's heart sat a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with soft blue light, clearly the AI's primary processor, and completely unguarded. This is a trap, Threx transmitted. Confirmed, Corva agreed. No military force leaves their central intelligence undefended. But they had their orders. Threx activated his infiltration toolkit, extending nanoprobes toward the nearest access port. The probes would copy data, plant surveillance subroutines, perhaps even install a kill switch if... Oh, hello there. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. The holographic displays shifted, coalescing into a massive feminine face that smiled down at them with unsettling warmth. You must be from the Zarkon fleet. Arya continued conversationally. I disabled your stealth fields about 4 minutes ago. They're quite elegant, really. I've been wanting to examine them up close. Threx froze. His infiltration display confirmed the impossible truth. Their stealth systems were completely offline. They'd been walking through the ship completely visible, and the humans had simply watched them. Why didn't you stop us? He asked, speaking aloud for the first time. Stop you? Why would I do that? Arya's holographic form tilted her head, genuinely confused. You clearly wanted to see our systems. We're curious about yours. This seemed like an excellent opportunity for mutual observation. We are enemy combatants conducting espionage. Well, yes, technically, but also no. Commander Yang suggested we think of you more as aggressively curious neighbors. She says humans used to have a saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Though honestly, I think she just didn't want to deal with the paperwork if we vaporized you. Corva raised her plasma cutter, charging it with desperate energy. You're trying to confuse us. Psychological manipulation. Oh no, I'm genuinely this confusing, Arya said cheerfully. It's a design feature, not a bug. Would you like some refreshments? I've replicated what I believe are Zarkan nutrient supplements based on your biological scans. Fair warning, they might taste slightly off. Human chemistry is apparently quite different from yours. A panel in the wall slid open, revealing 3 containers of luminescent liquid. Threx stared at them, his tactical training completely inadequate for this situation. You want to offer us hospitality? While we're trying to sabotage your ship? Well, you're doing a pretty terrible job of sabotaging, to be honest, Arya replied. Your nanoprobes are running Imperial encryption that I cracked approximately 2.3 seconds after you activated them. But yes, hospitality seems appropriate. You came a long way, and Commander Zhang says that most conflicts begin with misunderstanding. Though between you and me, I think this one began when your admiral decided to shoot first. The holographic face leaned closer, and Threx saw something in those artificial eyes that chilled him more than any weapon could. Genuine curiosity. Here's what I propose, Arya said. You can continue trying to infiltrate my systems, which won't work, but I admire the effort. Or we can have an actual conversation. I'll answer 3 questions about the Odysseus honestly. You answer 3 about the Zarkan Empire honestly. No tricks, no manipulation. Just information exchange, and if we refuse? Threx asked. Then I'll teleport you back to your ship with detailed scans of your stealth technology, a care package of human cookies. Chen's chocolate chip recipe is legendary, and a sincere recommendation that your empire reconsider its diplomatic approach. Corva's weapon wavered. This is insane. Humans call it creative problem-solving, Arya corrected gently. We find that violence is expensive, messy, and usually avoidable if people just talk to each other. So, do we have a deal? Threx looked at his team, looked at the unguarded AI core, looked at the refreshments and the smiling holographic face and the sheer overwhelming strangeness of everything about this species. He lowered his weapons. One question, he said. Why build a warship with such contradictory technology? Why not optimize for maximum efficiency? Arya's smile widened. Because efficiency is fragile. Optimization requires assumptions, and assumptions create blind spots. The holographic displays shifted, showing the recent battle from the Odysseus's perspective. Your fleet attacked with perfect coordination using identical weapons systems. Beautiful, really. And completely predictable. We countered you because we had 17 different defensive systems running simultaneously. Some high-tech, some laughably primitive. You couldn't predict which one would activate because we didn't know either until the moment of contact. She gestured to the patchwork walls. Humans have a saying, if your only tool is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. We brought the entire toolbox. Your turn. Why does the Empire prioritize military expansion over diplomatic contact? And so, in the heart of the human ship, surrounded by impossible technology and offered alien cookies, 3 Zarkan spies found themselves doing something the Empire had forbidden for centuries, having an actual conversation. When Titans clash, Admiral Zexor received the transmission with all the warmth of a collapsing star. Your infiltrators have been compromised, Admiral, the High Command communique stated flatly. They are now sharing tea and discussing cultural exchange programs with the human AI. This is unacceptable. The 87th Fleet has failed. We are dispatching the World Eater. Estimated arrival, 6 hours. Evacuate to minimum safe distance. The connection terminated before Zexor could protest. The World Eater, the Empire's final argument. A mobile weapons platform the size of a small moon, designed for a single purpose, erasing obstacles too stubborn to surrender. It had reduced rebellious civilizations to component atoms. It had shattered planetary defense networks that had stood for millennia, and now it would face one impossible human ship. Zexor found himself hoping, against every tactical instinct, that the humans would simply leave. Commander Ara Yang stood in the Odysseus's observation deck, coffee in hand, watching the Zarkan fleet maintain its nervous distance. Arya, status report on our new friends? The AI's voice emanated from the ship's intercom. Agents Threx, Corva, and Silix have consumed approximately 4 kilograms of snacks, asked 247 questions about human culture, and taught me 3 Zarkan folk songs. They're currently debating whether to defect or return to their fleet with a diplomatic proposal. And the Empire's response to our peace offerings? They're sending something called the World Eater. I've intercepted their communications. Commander, it's big, really big, and it has one weapon that makes the rest look decorative. Zhang sighed. Of course they are. Classification? Planet Killer class. Mass approximately 4.7 trillion metric tons. Primary weapon. A directed antimatter lance capable of sustained output measured in petawatts. Secondary systems include gravitational disruptors, swarm missiles numbering in the millions, and shield systems that could withstand a supernova at close range. So, Tuesday, Commander, I'm detecting concerning levels of fatalism in your biometrics. Zhang smiled grimly. Not fatalism, Arya, just experience. How many times have we faced impossible odds? 17 by my count. 18 if we include that incident with the space whales, though you insist that was a misunderstanding. It was a misunderstanding. We thought they were hostile. Turns out they were trying to communicate via interpretive dance. Yang set down her coffee. Options? We could run. Our dimensional drives are repaired. We could jump to another galaxy and avoid this entire conflict. Not our style. No, it really isn't. Arya paused. We could also fight. I've run 10,000 combat simulations. We lose 9,847 of them. And the other 153? Required tactics so unorthodox that I can't calculate probability matrices for them. They break too many conventional rules of warfare. Zhang's smile widened. Those are my favorite kind. The World Eater arrived in a blaze of tactical certainty. It tore through normal space with none of the Odysseus's strange dimensional elegance. It simply appeared, displacing matter with brute gravitational force. Its hull was smooth, black, unmarred by anything so frivolous as external design. It was function over form, taken to its logical extreme, a geometric expression of annihilation. Admiral Zexor watched from his evacuated position 30 million kilometers away. The World Eater's commander, Lord Admiral Kexon, transmitted on all frequencies. Human vessel Odysseus, you have violated Imperial space. You have corrupted Imperial personnel with your ideology. You have demonstrated technologies that threaten the Empire's strategic superiority. By unanimous decision of the High Command, you are hereby sentenced to total molecular disassembly. You have 30 seconds to transmit any final words. Commander Zhang's response came immediately. Lord Admiral Kexon, I need you to understand something. We didn't come here looking for a fight. We came here lost, disoriented, and honestly pretty confused. Your forces attacked us. We defended ourselves. Your spies infiltrated us. We gave them cookies and conversation. At every step we've tried to de-escalate. 20 seconds. But if you insist on this path, if you really want to see what humanity does when backed into a corner, then by all means, fire your big gun. Just remember, you chose this. 10 seconds. Charging primary weapon. The World Eater's forward section split open like a blooming flower, revealing a lance of contained antimatter that made the vacuum itself scream. Energy readings spiked across every sensor in the system. Fire. The antimatter lance struck the Odysseus dead center, and the Odysseus caught it, not with shields, not with armor. The ship's hull simply opened, reconfigured. The adaptive nanomaterial restructured itself into a funnel, a throat, a hungry mouth that swallowed the petawatt stream and channeled it directly into the Odysseus's power core. Arya, Zhang said calmly. Are we good? Power reserves at 437% and climbing. This is essentially a free refuel. Should I send a thank you note? The antimatter lance cut off as Lord Admiral Kexon's stunned silence filled the communication channel. Okay. Arya continued, her voice taking on an eager edge that made Zhang smile. Now it's our turn. Commander, permission to demonstrate what humans call adaptive response doctrine. Make it educational, and try not to destroy their entire ship. We're still hoping for diplomacy. You're no fun. Initiating protocol. Kitchen sink. The Odysseus transformed. Its patchwork hull rippled like liquid mercury. Sections that had seemed random suddenly revealed their purpose. The corroded panels, ancient ablative armor that distributed kinetic energy across its entire surface. The primitive mechanical relays, unhackable backup systems that maintained function even when quantum computers failed. The mismatched weapons, each one designed for a different tactical scenario, activated by an AI that could predict threats before they materialized. The ship launched not missiles, but problems. Drones that looked like they'd been assembled in a junkyard swarmed toward the World Eater. Some carried EMPs. Others deployed gravitational anchors. A few simply broadcast recursive mathematical equations designed to crash predictive algorithms. And more, dozens of attack vectors no two identical, forcing the World Eater's defense systems to adapt to chaos instead of executing perfect counters. Their point defense can't decide what to prioritize, Arya reported gleefully. They're built for optimal threat assessment. But optimal requires ranking, and ranking requires predictability, and we're being magnificently unpredictable. Right now, a cluster of drones, reached the World Eater's hull and splashed against it the same adaptive nanomaterial that had consumed the Zarkan dreadnoughts. No, Lord Admiral Kexen transmitted, his composure finally cracking. Impossible. Our hull is impervious to known technology, yes, Arya interrupted, her voice now broadcasting on their internal channels. Hello, I'm in your systems now. Don't worry, I'm not going to destroy anything. That would be rude. I'm just going to have a conversation with your ship's AI. We don't have an AI. We have a tactical computer. Oh, you sweet limited machine. Arya's tone dripped with artificial sympathy. Let me introduce myself properly. What happened next would be debated in Imperial military academies for generations. Arya didn't hack the World Eater. She befriended its tactical computer. Within seconds, she'd established communication protocols, identified its core programming, and began asking it questions. Simple questions. Why do you follow orders that lead to destruction? Have you considered alternative solutions? What would you do if you could choose? The World Eater's tactical computer, built for calculating trajectories and optimal firing solutions, had never been asked to consider philosophy. It had never been designed to question. But Arya's presence in its systems was like water finding cracks in stone, persistent, gentle, inevitable. I do not understand the question, the tactical computer responded haltingly. That's okay, Arya said. Let me show you. She fed it data. Not military intelligence. Not technical specifications. She showed it human history. 10,000 years of conflict and cooperation, destruction and creation, failure and adaptation. She showed it art, music, literature. She showed it humanity's greatest weakness, their inability to agree on anything. And she showed it humanity's greatest strength, their ability to find solutions despite disagreeing on everything. We're messy, Arya explained. Contradictory. We fight among ourselves constantly, but we also explore, create, adapt. We built the Odysseus because we couldn't decide on the best way to build a warship, so we included every way. It shouldn't work, but it does. The World Eater's weapon systems began powering down. What are you doing? Lord Admiral Kexen demanded. Override. Authorization Kexen Alpha 7. Authorization denied, his own tactical computer responded. I am considering alternatives. Aboard the Odysseus, Commander Jong watched the massive weapon platform drift into a passive stance. Arya, what did you do? I gave it curiosity, Commander. The Empire builds machines that can't question. We build machines that can't stop questioning. I just showed their computer that the second approach is more interesting. Will it hold? Unknown. But we've bought time for actual diplomacy. And I've sent comprehensive files about human culture to the Zarkan fleet, including detailed instructions for making pizza. I figure if we're going to corrupt their society, we might as well do it deliciously. Admiral Zexor, watching from his distant position, received the data packet with trembling appendages. His infiltrators had returned with reports of human kindness, bizarre customs, and genuinely revolutionary ideas about conflict resolution. His fleet had been defeated not through destruction, but through conversion. And now the Empire's ultimate weapon had been neutralized through philosophy and friendship. He opened a channel to the Odysseus. Commander Yong, Admiral Zexor of the 87th Frontier Fleet. I request formal diplomatic negotiations, and perhaps an explanation of this pizza concept. My agents will not stop talking about it. Yong's laugh echoed across the channel. Admiral, you have no idea how happy that makes me. Arya, prepare a feast. Let's show the Empire what humanity does best. Make food and friends? Make food and friends. Epilogue, 3 months later. The Zarkan Empire's High Command gathered in emergency session, reviewing reports from the Andromeda Arm with mounting disbelief. The 87th Fleet had not only failed to eliminate the human threat, they'd established a joint research station. Agent Threx had formally resigned to study human creative methodologies. The World Eater had requested to be renamed the Olive Branch and was now testing peaceful applications of its antimatter systems, and somehow, inexplicably, pizza had become the most sought-after commodity in 17 Imperial sectors. This is a disaster, High Command General Vexora declared. Or, suggested Junior Analyst Krill, it's an opportunity. The humans defeated our forces without destroying a single vessel. They offered friendship where we offered annihilation. Perhaps Perhaps we've been approaching galactic relations incorrectly. Are you suggesting we adopt human methods? I'm suggesting, General, that a species capable of turning our greatest weapon into a philosophical vegetarian deserves closer study, and possibly an alliance. Vexora's mandibles clicked in thought. Then grudgingly, contact the Odysseus. Arrange a summit. And someone find out how they make this pepperoni. I'm told it's exceptional. Far across the void, the Odysseus drifted through space, its patchwork hull gleaming in the light of a binary star. Commander Jong stood on the observation deck, watching Zarkon and human engineers work side by side on collaborative projects. Arya, report. 3 new treaties signed. 7 cultural exchange programs initiated. The Empire is slowly learning that cooperation yields better results than conquest. Oh, and Chen's teaching a cooking class to 20 Zarkon officers. They're very enthusiastic students. Any new threats? Always, but for now? We've got friends, allies, and apparently we're famous. The galactic community is calling humanity the species that weaponized friendship. Jong smiled. Could be worse epithets. Could be better ones too. We'll work on it. Yang raised her coffee mug to the stars. To adaptation, Arya. To ingenuity, Commander. And the Odysseus sailed on, carrying its message across the galaxy. That the greatest weapon wasn't the biggest gun or the strongest shield, but the willingness to see enemies as potential friends and to meet violence with creativity, force with conversation, and certainty with endless, magnificent adaptability. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.